the subtle signs of perimenopause that you might be dismissing. Ladies, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. This is part 2. If you've not yet listened to part 1, go back and have a listen to the last episode where we begin this conversation around the more subtle signs of these big hormonal changes. But they're creeping on, and no 2 months feel the same. There's no consistency in what we're experiencing. So we're not really putting it down to perimenopause. Like, we know on paper, we know what we see online. You might recognise what you hear in a podcast. Maybe it is perimenopause. But then I think in the back of our minds, we're all saying we're too young for this. Like, menopause is for 50-year-old women. We're in our 40s or wherever you are in your journey. And we still feel, I think half of us at least, we still feel 21. And it's scary, isn't it? It's scary when life and this stage of life has already caught up on us and we're feeling a little bit more irritable. We're not able to lose body fat as quickly. We are feeling maybe a little bit more anxious. We've got brain fog. We're not as motivated to get our workouts. Like, we've just that spring in our step. Like, where has it gone? And we're itching, we're clawing, we're doing anything to get it back. Like, we just want to get back on neutral playing field and then we'll be away. And we fight against even accepting the thought that this could be the start of a massive change that my body's going to go through. And so maybe it's not about getting back on neutral and clawing my old self back. Maybe this is about learning how to care for myself now in a different way, because my body needs different. And this is the conversation that we need to be having. And I can't stress it enough. First of all, I am mid-cycle as I record this. And some of what I'm experiencing, so I will talk you through some of what I've been experiencing and the things that I've been doing differently and putting into play, because this is what the podcast's for. Share the insights, no gatekeeping. I'm here to give the education behind it all, but then also like the real practical ways in which I can see my clients are thriving or things that I've been putting into place. So let's get into it. I will kick off with the reminder that all of this information and taking it all on, yes, it's going to validate the way that you are feeling, and it's nice to hear that you're not alone, and it's nice to hear that, okay, maybe I'm not losing my marbles, maybe there is actually something more going on. But nothing is going to change truly unless you decide that you are willing to change, willing to do things differently. And all of this transformation, this thriving lifestyle, this mindset, like everything that we want for ourselves, and we dream about it, but we very few of us take action on what we want. But it is only going to come into fruition with action. And when it comes to taking care of ourselves and caring for ourselves through one of the biggest changes as women, arguably the biggest change that we're going to go through, which is perimenopause into menopause, we've got to be willing to care for ourselves differently. And this is going to take a level of care. This stage of life, ladies, it's going to take a level of care like we've not known before. 20s and 30s, we could wing it. We could leave ourselves at the bottom of the priority list. We could care for everyone else. We could power on very little sleep. We could get away with calories in versus calories out, regardless of the quality of what we were eating. And we could drink of a weekend, all of the things. And that's about to change. So get comfortable with that and strap in, because when we embrace this change, believe you me, we've got the opportunity to make this the best stage of life ahead. Not to say it's not going to have the tougher months, but if there's one thing, and I'll feed this through the episodes, if there's one thing that I've been doing differently, it's understanding when to pull back a little bit, understanding when to give myself a little bit more compassion and rest and switch off. And sometimes just riding it out. Like, sometimes just riding out the symptoms. Like, I'm mid-cycle now. I'm feeling a little bloated, feeling a bit heavy. Boobs are definitely feeling heavy, carrying a bit of water. Spoke about it on last week's episode, but my skin and everything feels as though it's changing. And honestly, previous Nick, I would have battled with myself through this. You know, when you put your gym leggings on and they feel too tight, or you look in the mirror and you catch yourself and you've got a gut. You look like you've got a gut in the gym leggings that are supposed to hold everything in. And I'm just not willing to do it. I am just not willing to bash myself. I know all I've got to do is take better care these next couple of days, and all of this will subside. It's a process that my healthy body is going through, and I want you to have the same perspective on this, is that a healthy body, ladies, goes through a menstrual cycle, and a healthy body goes through hormonal changes. And there's only you that is questioning your discipline and the way in which that you are showing up. But if you know that you're checking those boxes and you are showing up with self-care and you are taking care of your mindset and your stress management and your sleep and your nutrition, then let your body do its thing. I'm 43 now, and I don't know about any of you, but I think it's time that we start to show ourselves a little bit of the love and the compassion that we give to everyone else, and particularly when you're feeling all of the feels. For me, this has actually helped me to get in and out of cycle quicker, because, you know, we work against ourselves sometimes when we're going through all of these symptoms. And so maybe then we feel lousy, okay, because we've got the water retention, we're bloated, whatever. We feel lousy, I'm eating the chocolate, I'm going to be down on myself, and I'm just going to sabotage for 48 hours because I feel like rubbish and I look like rubbish and the scales are up. And where does that sabotage get us? It just creates an extended period of not feeling at your best. So we need to draw a line. First symptom, well, number 5, we went through 4 of the classics on last episode, but number 5, I've got 3 to go through today, ladies. If I repeat myself, if I'm a little bit all over, reminder, mid-cycle, the brain fog that I'm talking about and everything else, all of these other symptoms, I'm here, I'm standing before you recording this podcast in the baggy jogging bottoms and the baggy t-shirt and feeling all of the feels. So yeah, any slip-ups, there's my excuse. But this one, I have definitely noticed a difference. And it's just the recovery. Recovery takes a little bit longer and your body just feels more sensitive. This is the most bizarre thing. So I consider myself to have a pretty decent pain threshold. Okay, like if I bang myself or like bash my arm or whatever, I'm over it. Like I'm just not that little daisy of a woman that feels these things. But wow, recently, and this is so bizarre, and I've genuinely had to stop myself in my tracks and be like, oh my gosh, is this what it feels like? So I bashed the back of my hand the other day. This is going to sound so weak. Bashed the back of my hand. You know, where the skin's really thin. And maybe this is because I'm always thinking, not just of myself, but I'm aware of the changes I'm going through. I'm constantly always in the mode of coach and health and, you know, just looking at things from different perspective. And I've just noticed the pain threshold has changed, basically top and bottom of it. I'm not saying I rolled over and started to cry. I definitely didn't. I just noticed it. I noticed something that I wouldn't normally have. So that's my very brief example on sort of like pain threshold changing. But the recovery to work out. Now, this is the part that I want to talk about. You've heard me talk before on the importance of prioritising rest and recovery, post-workout and just day to day. Not just in our 40s, this is important overall, but we know more so now than ever, we want to get focused on building lean muscle. Had this conversation with my mum actually earlier. She's just ran her first 10k earlier this week. What a woman. What a woman. My mum could never run. And at the age of 65, decided to do couch to 5k. And she's just done her first 10k this week, having just turned 66. And I said to her, mum, make sure you are eating enough protein. And she's like, okay. And I thought, no, that's too passive. Like, you're not listening. I was like, mother, you are in such a good position here. You are running 10k at age 66 for the first time in your life. Let's make sure you're not burning through muscle to fuel these sessions. You've got to be recovering well. You've got to be recovering well. You've got to be eating enough protein. You are setting yourself up for a long, healthy life here. But the nutrition's got to be tapped in, the recovery and everything that goes with it. Like, it's a bigger part of the process. So she's like, okay, so what do you think I should be doing? And like, her ears pricked up a little bit more then, but we've got to accept and we've got to get really comfortable that the goal for us all now should be to build and retain as much lean muscle as we can. Now, the recovery plays a massive role in this, whether that is dialing in the nutrition, whether it's just making sure that we give ourselves the rest or the adequate hydration. Like, the hydration post-workout to fully recover your muscles is so important. But what these symptoms can present as, and again, sometimes I think we just think it's been a tough workout, which, you know what, sometimes it has. But like feeling more sore after a workout, or it taking longer to recover. Just more niggles. like aches, joint stiffness. I've actually had this conversation. So earlier today, I've done a group coaching call, Time to Thrive group coaching, and my one-to-one coaching ladies. We have a weekly group coaching call, and it's just like an open office. Like, jump on, stick your camera on, let's have a little chat. I'll answer a few of the big burning questions, and this sort of like goes alongside our coaching content for the week. But one of my clients this week has just been asking generally about joint stiffness. So give you a bit of context on this. Our body produces a lubricant for our joints. Okay, it's called synovial fluid. So, and all of us have got it. And during our menstrual cycle, this production of synovial joint fluid starts to deplete. So the body basically is always prioritising needs must. This is why in fight or flight, some of those bigger jobs for the body to do, like adequate hydration, like where we're going to distribute fat, like it's just not deemed a priority. We've spoke about that on previous episodes. Well, the production of this synovial fluid is also not really a priority because we're going through menstrual cycle. And again, if your hormones are changing at the same time in line with perimenopause, then guess what? It's even less of a priority. So fluid depletes and we start to feel stiffness. Now, I've worked with women in their 20s who experience this around menstrual cycle. This is not just a symptom of perimenopause. Joint stiffness, soreness, weakness around cycle is quite common with women of any age, but more so as we come towards perimenopause. So just a quick tip on this. And again, because I've been aware of this for so long, it's something that I've always tried to consider. And you might see me posting this on socials, around the time of cycle, making sure that you are accounting for those higher foods containing the omega-3. So the likes of your sardines, your oily fish, mackerel, salmon, getting in your avocado, using your extra virgin olive oil. I'm not saying we want to max out, we're trying to keep our calories under control. It's a lot for us to think about at all times, ladies. I know it. But making sure, like these cravings that we get around cycle, they present to us as like we need sugar, we need carbs. What the body is really craving, it's the nutrition that it needs to function optimally. And one of those things, especially during menstrual cycle, is it's just an increase in your omega-3s. So you can either take a supplement and you'll take that daily and that'll support this intake consistently, or just increase your intake of those foods. And you can have a Google yourself for maybe some of the foods that you enjoy a little more, but making sure that we count them in around the time of the month is super important, and it can really help with like niggles, aches and joint stiffness. Another way that this sort of like presents, and again, we don't always acknowledge it as being a change in hormones, just like feeling drained by exercise instead of energized. So you might have heard me talk about this, and if you're inside of my community, you will definitely have heard me talk about wanting to leave the gym with 10% still in the tank. So we never really want to leave the gym flat to the floor, like, oh my gosh, I need to go home and take a nap. We've all done that workout. My hubby does them far too often. Like, honestly, his method is going to the gym and smash it. And I'm like, this is so counterproductive because you're done in for the whole rest of the day. It's normally the weekend, to be fair, when he's just had a crazy week in work. Anyway, trying to bring him onto my way of thinking. Leave the gym with 10% in the tank. I know it feels like you could just go and do some sprints, or you could just do one more set of the kettlebell swings or whatever it is. Don't leave the gym with 10% in the tank, because we want to leave your workout feeling energized. That's how we're then able to keep the momentum. That's how we're then able to follow through on the good nutrition and recover well and all of the other things that we're trying to line up to get to this like optimal way of living, optimal way of feeling in our minds, in our bodies. So feeling drained instead of energized from your workouts can be a direct sign and symptom that things are just changing. And honestly, if you're not doing it already, I would highly recommend you following a strength training program, ideally 3-day split-ish, and you're going in with a plan. Not overdoing it, not feeling like you need to be doing 20 reps of every exercise and the 12 exercises on the program. Like, just go in, lift heavy, stay consistent. Again, of course, if you need help with this plan, structured accountability, that is what we do inside of Time to Thrive. But we want to look out for this feedback specifically, because we shouldn't be coming out of the gym feeling drained, nor should we be feeling drained hours after our workout. So what's going on? Like, why is recovery feeling so much harder during this perimenopause? Well, you'll notice a common theme, ladies, with all of these symptoms that I'm talking about. The common theme is that everything interlinks, and this is just another sign that like our stress tolerance has shifted. So putting the body under stress, we talk about psychological stress, we talk about mental stress, and then obviously there's like the physical stress that we impose on ourselves in a workout. That's a healthier dose of stress. Like we need to put our body under stress in a workout to cause adaptation. The stress is what causes the adaptation. However, our tolerance, like our capacity for stress, starts to shift in our 40s. So some of those massive workouts that we could do like earlier in our 30s, and again, if you are a lover of high rocks, CrossFit, all of these really high, heavy, intense sessions, some of those sessions we were able to absorb so much easier years ago. But if your stress tolerance has now started to shift, or the capacity to take on this stress, then you might have to be more careful where you plan in those sessions. So typical way to look at it, 4 weeks in a cycle, your first 2 weeks, I would be planning in those bigger sessions. And then weeks 3 and 4, so heading in towards menstrual cycle, that's when we pull it back a little bit. That's when we are more focused on controlled reps, proper form, strength training, split. I mean, we should be doing the controlled reps and the proper form throughout, but we know that if you're doing high rocks and stuff like that, we get a bit carried away in these sessions. We do. But we need to be more mindful. There's nothing more frustrating. This is such a mental battle. There's nothing more frustrating than you want to be able to work out a certain way, but you just can't recover from them sessions, and it's biting you on the butt because you're ravenous afterwards. You're picking up injuries that you never used to struggle with, and you're just generally feeling drained. So first of all, it's thinking about the plan and being willing to pull back a little, not training hard every single session. Now, again, if you're somebody who loves to go to the gym, you've always gone to the gym, you've always trained hard, this is a hard mentality to shift, not training hard on every single session. And what that might look like is you go in and you do your heavy weight and your max lifts. Let's say, for example, on your first 2 exercises. So I've gone into the gym today. Okay, I've done deadlifts, pull-ups, I've done some dead bugs. I then done some like rear delt work, which is the backs of your shoulders, like your upper back, for anybody who doesn't know. Very important for our posture and just our aesthetic. We want those nice round shoulders, nice upper body. So trying to just work on pulling my shoulders back a little bit at the moment. And I've done some leg extension. Now, I only really push myself on my deadlifts today. So again, bang in the middle of menstrual cycle, wanted to get something out of my session, pushing myself to increase the weight on every single one of those exercises would have been way too demanding for my body today. Like honestly, I wouldn't have been able to recover. I know it. We've got the buzz in the session. We push ourselves. We almost it's like, I wouldn't consider it to be punishment. But I suppose when I phrase it that way, as in like train smarter, not punishing yourself, we are punishing ourselves when we're pushing ourselves to limits that we're not quite capable of recovering from. So you're capable of lifting that way, but if you can't recover from that session, then it's so counterproductive. So again, a round cycle. First 2 exercises on the plan, you're going to go in, you're going to lift as normal. Maybe you're going to strive for those couple of extra reps, a little bit of extra weight. But then for the rest of your session, keep it moderate. Maybe 80% of what you would normally lift. So example, you would normally do 10 kg weights for your overhead press. You're going to pull back and do 80% of your normal max, and we're going to use 8 kilogram dumbbells. And if they feel far too light, get a set on your 10s, but be willing to make these small adjustments, particularly around the time of cycle, because there's 2 camps of us, I think. There's one camp that will go in the gym and push through regardless, and then there's another camp who just can't train. You can't train because you don't know how to adapt your workouts. So your normal sessions are too heavy, too intense. You don't know how to pull back. So you miss an entire week of training, essentially, because you're on menstrual cycle. Well, we don't want to do that either, because we know more than ever, if we're feeling puffy, if we've got water retention, if we've been eating a little bit more because we've had cravings or our appetite is increased, then it's really important actually that we get our exercise and for our mental state also. But we don't always want to feel like we've got to push ourselves to the max. So if anything, I want you to think about exercise around cycle, especially in our 40s, to build us up, to give us the boost. Like we're going in to give us that mental boost rather than empty the tank. I actually felt a little bit flat when I woke up this morning, weirdly. And I say it's weird because it's not a common feeling for me, but I have noticed this is another symptom, I think, of just hormones starting to shift. Very tearful. Not like in a sad way, just as in, like, I'll see something cute and start crying, like, for anything, basically. But just woke up and felt a bit flat. So easy to then talk yourself out of going to the gym because you feel flat. Nope, we've got to coach ourselves here at this point, ladies. You have got to come from the perspective of your higher self. What would your highest self do in that situation? Well, she would take herself to the gym, but she wouldn't push herself to extremes. So we're going in to give ourselves the boost, not iron ourselves out. Okay, next symptom. Naturally moving into just talking about cravings. Just, like snacky behaviours. Like you just feel snackish. And you know what else I'll say? You really don't care. Well, I don't know about any of you, but it's almost like a no F's are given because we are hormonal. And so we feel snacky, we're having a snack. And it's like, that we have those two voices, don't we? One is telling us to stick to the plan and the other one is like, just eat the chocolate, it's fine. Ooh, that voice, if we could give her a name, I need to think of one. For the voice that's telling you to just eat the chocolate a lot of the time, like we've got very good, haven't we, telling her to be quiet. She is a force when we're hormonal. Now, ladies who are listening to this and maybe you're not feeling the signs and symptoms of perimenopause yet, but you already identify with this one, like the cravings around cycle. We don't care. Like, I'm eating the chocolate, it's almost like one voice is saying to the other, listen, totally get your whole point about living our best lives and thriving and everything else, but I need chocolate, I'm hormonal, nothing else is going to do. So sit down and we'll come back to you in 48 hours. That is the conversation in my mind, just putting it out there. I don't know if I'm a little bit looped. But these cravings and like the food noise, that's the biggest buzzword at the moment, isn't it? It's new level. But I want to talk about what's going on. So again, if you listen to the previous episode, I spoke about just like blood sugar, like glucose levels are a little less stable. So what provides stability for like our blood sugar levels? First of all, starting your day with protein. So we know if we eat anything high sugar or high carb, we get this big spike. Okay, so you feel like you need energy from somewhere, so you're going to eat, something high in sugar. And then we get this big spike and we feel amazing. But like the roller coaster analogy that I use, you are then going to crash on the other side. There's no two ways about it. That crash is then, it's like a plummet of like, okay, give me some more of that energy. So then we crave more of the same food. Your protein gives you like this nice, steady increase. There's no big peak. You're not going to get this big bust and burst of energy, but you're not going to get the crash either. Now, even if you're doing that, and that is the best way to start your day, ladies. As you know, if you're an avid listener of our podcast, we start our day with protein and we don't negotiate on it, but we've then got to make sure that we're keeping on top of this protein intake throughout the day to keep our blood sugar levels stable. If you're going to eat something sweet, simple tip, pair it with protein if you can. So if you're going to eat the dark chocolate, crumble it on top of the Greek yogurt. If you are trying to think of something else like that you might eat that is very sweet midday. Anyway, where we can, let's say, high carb, let's say you're going to eat a round of toast or a bagel or something. Let's get a bit of a protein shake on the side, or let's put a little bit of cottage cheese on top of the toast. That might be a very weird combo, is that just me? But we want to try to pair it with protein because it just slows the spike. So we've got this more stable increase of sugar coming into our blood, and it genuinely keeps off cravings. I don't think any of us want to be feeling this way. We don't want to have to be battling our willpower at all costs because our cravings are out of control. Like, it's just no fun. Actually, the point that we want to get you to is you're not even thinking about food. You're satiated, like you're thinking of other parts of life. It's not even about the next meal, the next snack. Like, you're over it. That is the sweet spot. That is, I talk to my clients all of the time about this. If this is going to be a way of living, I don't want you to be thinking about food 24/7. I want you to eat your meals, enjoy them, and then that's that. And then, as would be normal, about 20-30 minutes before your next meal, you start to feel a little hungry, and great timing because our next meal's coming up and we know what we're having and it contains protein. Like, we want to feel satiated. So really what we're talking about when we want to get past this, like feeling extra snacky, because again, it can spread from, maybe it was like a 48, 72 hour window ordinarily, but now it's like a week. It's like a week of just feeling like you've got no real discipline or control. And this is how we feel, isn't it? Like, we feel like we've got no discipline. First port of call, ladies, take action on this. Don't just listen to it and think, oh yeah, I like that. Like, we bank information like it's going out of fashion, which it isn't. But we don't act on it. But I want you to act on this. You've got to pay attention to your sleep. You have to. If we are under-recovered, we're not well rested enough and we're lagging, we're going to be craving. If we're hormonal, that's going to kick up another notch. So actually, worrying about our cravings around menstrual cycle is only a small part of it. I want you to worry instead about the quality of your sleep and how well you are prioritising, getting into bed at a decent hour, giving yourself regular screen breaks, doing the dinner and done. So having that cut-off point so that when you actually get in bed, you've gone through the digestion process and your body is able to restore and recover. And this knocks into the next point, which is just making sure that you fuel well throughout the day. So a lot of us, if you're in diet mentality, you've got this real sort of like old school way of thinking, we're going to be good. So being good normally looks like a little breakfast, a little lunch, and then I'll eat dinner with the family because that's going to be the biggest meal of the day. So I'll save all of my calories for that. But you have been being so good all day that you have been under eating. So by the time you get to the night, cravings are out of control. Like, you've lost the wheel. So, because cortisol's elevated, because don't forget, when we're not eating enough, and I know that this is a lot of information to take in, ladies, I know it is. If you need clarity, structure, you need a very clear plan, you need to come to Thriving Women, because that's where you're going to get it. This is information and it's education, but it's not a plan. And if you want a plan and you want clarity, don't procrastinate on making the decision. Come over, and that's exactly what we're going to give you. But you've got to think about, when we undereat, will we add stress to the body? Because we're asking the body to perform, to hold the meeting, take care of the patients, look after the children in class, whatever the job title is. But we're asking our body to show up and perform, but we're not fueling it. We're not fueling to what we need. And so we are just adding that. This is creating stress. And so you see this stress hormone cortisol, which is now just like, woo, it's like flooding into the system. And you know, come 6 o'clock, it completely wipes out any sense of satiety. Like, nothing is going to satiate us now. No, you've set yourself up for this. You've under-ate all day, and now you have no way of feeling satiated. And not only that, but because you're feeling this sense of heightened stress, and again, we're so quick to just pin this on, oh, I'm hormonal. It's that. It is that. But we've got to understand how to get around it, because then we also know when we're in this state of stress, our body is not properly able to digest, not able to distribute fat, calories in the way that we would like it to. It's not going to preload the muscles. It's going to stick it straight on our stomach. We know all of this. We've spoken about it in previous episodes. So flipping it on its head and just making sure that you're fueling well enough during the day. Doing dinner and done can be so beneficial for this, because dinner and done, for those of you who have no clue what I'm on about, is you eat dinner at whatever time that is for you, 6:30, 7 p.m, and that is it. No more food after that last meal. But what that almost gives you then permission to do is to eat that little bit more during the day. You're not saving yourself for the night because you've already created that boundary that after my evening meal, I'm not eating anymore. And before anybody thinks, oh, but that's so restrictive and it's all or nothing. Well, it's actually not. It's a smart way of eating. But what we want a lot of the time is we want the best of both worlds. But ultimately, if you're going to get in great shape and you're going to drive your results and you're going to feel at your best, don't forget, this is not just about a scale weight. This is feeling at your best. Then, of course, we've got to make sacrifice. But what I will say, and I've had a client say to me this week, because she struggles with the dinner and done because her hubby likes to eat a little bit later on. And for whatever reason, she was solo parent the other day. And she said, oh my gosh, the difference, Nick. Dinner and done, I just ate with the kids at 5 p.m. The difference I felt the next morning was night and day. And that's what we want to get. That's what we want to achieve for you. We want you to get on the other side of taking the action and feel amazing. And then it's an informed decision that you're making. I'll never hold a gun to any of my clients' head. You must do this. You must eat this way. You must stick to this. I am going to give you the strategy, the protocols, and the plan to follow. But I wait on the other side of the check-in. I am waiting for you to check in and say, oh, mic drop. Feel amazing. And I'm like, happy days. And now you can make these informed decisions. You don't need me to tell you what to choose from the buffet or how to moderate alcohol. You know how to make those great decisions for yourself because you know how you want to feel on the other side. But getting to the other side for a lot of women is the struggle. So dinner and done, nice way to start, and it definitely supports this more snacky behaviour. And it also supports recovery as well, ladies, which is the last point that we've just brought up. So your recovery is largely achieved during sleep. Quality of your sleep is improved massively when you give yourself that little window between your last meal and bedtime. And then before we move on to our last very subtle symptom, I've got to say at this point, because I know I'm giving the do's and the don'ts, and I've tried this and I've tried that. No two women are the same. Like, we're all going to experience this differently. We really are. I'm on a soapbox today and I'm studying, I'm giving the do's, the don'ts and everything else. I want us to be having these conversations. I want to be able to walk into a room of women and talk about how I'm genuinely feeling and not have to mask it. But me this time 2 cycles ago, or maybe a month or 2 ago, like, I would have been under a rock. I wouldn't be recording the podcast today because I am genuinely in the thick of it with you, and I'm feeling the ups and the downs and the ebbs and the flows month on month. And I also want to remove shame from that, because we've got to be able to be on this journey for ourselves. And this is where a little bit woo, but understanding ourselves and our inner self is so important. One of the things that I mentioned in a presentation that I delivered earlier this week is the amount of information that we've got access to, okay, with AI especially. The sheer amount of information. First of all, it's so overwhelming, but also we spend that much time analysing the right thing to do that we're actually losing our sense of self. We are losing our sense of inner knowing. Like, we're losing the sense of how to take care of ourselves, and we're just leaving it in the hands of what the latest influencers telling us and what AI might be telling us to do. And I'm like, no, we're removing our inner knowing out of the equation. But you are smarter than that. But there's 2 sides to it, isn't there? There's an inner knowing, and then there's being able to follow through on that without shame or without guilt. And I think the guilt, especially if you're a mum or you hold a standard of any level, and then you feel as though you're bending those standards. And we don't want that, do we? We don't like that feeling. We don't like that feeling of like having to pull back. I almost took myself up to bed last night whilst the kids were still awake. I would not have done this in a million years, by the way. I think I just romanticised the thought for like 5 minutes of being like, I had the most excruciating headache, which I don't normally get headaches. My head was just absolutely throbbing. I was like, I just need to close my eyes. I need to go to bed. And the kids were still playing. And instantly I was like, I obviously can't do that because my kids expect a certain standard of me. And like, if they're playing, mummy's playing. If they're in the garden running around, like, mummy's going out to play. And so then it instantly come into my mind, like, well, you can't possibly do that because the kids are going to think there's something wrong, and then they're going to think that you're weak, and then and I'm just going through this whole conversation, and I was like, no, we've actually got to remove any guilt around just needing to look after ourselves. Needless to say, did I need an hour in bed? Did I? Hell, do you know what I needed? I needed to just turn my notifications off and get away from my mobile phone, because the multitasking it's not always necessary, and I think that's the biggest drain on our battery. So that worked a treat. Stepped away from work and just being sort of like switched on And that was exactly what was needed. Okay, last symptom that you may have started to notice, ladies, but again, we notice it, but then we don't really want to acknowledge it as being anything linked to perimenopause. And it's just like cycle changes. And it's not always dramatic at first. So it can be like a heavier period, shorter cycle, a longer cycle. Like we've spoken about, like prolonged periods of PMS. So just feeling the symptoms a little bit more. So more headaches, breast tenderness. I am basically describing my current experience this month for me. But just generally feeling like more symptomatic. Like I've added in some of those because, this is what the data shows, but it's also very much part of what I'm experiencing right now. I think for me, I'm noticing shorter cycles, which scares me a little bit. It's quite emotional. I don't know what it is. I feel as though, is anyone else feeling this? It's quite an emotional part of life, isn't it? To feel like I'm going through this huge shift. It's monumental. And it really marks a sign of change for a woman. Like if you've carried children and like we've had that whole stage of life, and this is the shift. This is the shift to the other side. I don't know, that's just my little brain blurb there, which was not part of what I was going to talk about, but it's just a little of how I'm feeling. I feel quite emotional when we get to the stage of the month, and like my cycle some months has been one day. Well, it normally drags out for about 3 days, but it's actually just one. It's like one day. If I won't go into the nitty gritty, you know what I'm talking about, ladies. You have one day when you feel like you're on, but then you have 3 days of sort of like needing to monitor the situation. So this is a clear symptom of perimenopause, and it often just begins with like fluctuations in length and like heaviness of your cycle. And I think this is where the information gets a little bit confusing, because you can be going through very intense stages of perimenopause and still be having a menstrual cycle. I think a lot of women that I've worked with have come to me and they've said, well, it can't be that because I'm still having a period every month. And it really can be that. I've got other women that I've worked with, and again, I'm just sharing this experience, ladies, obviously always anonymously, who we know that menopause only actually lasts one day. Okay, so you're either in perimenopause or you're postmenopausal, but your menopause is one day. And it's the one day, once you go 12 months without having a period, so you're going to go an entire 12 months, the day after that 12 months is menopause. Everything after that is postmenopausal. So I've had clients who they've gone 9 months without a cycle, and it's brutal. It's a brutal 9 months. And then period arrives. And it's like, they were almost like banking on, okay, this is it. This is maybe as intense as it's going to get, but I'm nearly out the other end. Like I'm 9 months without a cycle, and then periods will arrive. And then it'll just resume this weird trend of like, and then it's 6 weeks, and then it comes back in another 4 weeks. And then it's no two women's journey is the same. I say this because I want to prepare you with a little bit of readiness of these fluctuations. But just know that they present differently for everyone. But as soon as you start to feel or notice something a little different, that is your sign. That is your sign that your body and your hormones are changing. And so it's really the underpinning message of all of this is the level of care of which we take of ourselves. And that is monitoring the alcohol that we put in, the amount of alcohol, monitoring the quality of calories, managing our stress, making sure we're taking care of our sleep and our mindset. It's so important if we're going to support our bodies through this stage. So what I would do, and again, I mentioned this on the previous episode, is track your symptoms monthly. Definitely track your cycle. So just like what day of the month that your cycle is due. And also if you track it using an app, it'll normally give you like your fertile window as well, or when you're ovulating. So I know a lot of women also experience symptoms around this time, and it can be really confusing if it's mid-month and you feel bloated. And again, if you're in a fat loss phase, that is a kick to the teeth. Like you've woke up and you feel bloated, and you're doing all of the things here to try and drop body fat, and now your leggings don't fit properly. or your clothes feel tighter than they did yesterday, just check on your app, because if it's your fertile window, it's just a symptom of that. So it's nothing to stress about. Like, you haven't gained body fat, top and bottom of it, your results are still there to play for. We're still on course. We're just going through a fluctuation, which can be very normal. But don't wait. I think start noticing the patterns, and then don't wait until things get so extreme before you go and get support. Go and have a conversation with, whether it's your GP, or you just get yourself some clear structure. You have a plan, you come and be a part of our community, or whatever it is that's going to work for you. But do not struggle silently through all of this. Like, I can't say it enough. It's tough enough as it is, just going through menstrual cycle and needing to show up in the way that we do on a monthly basis. Like, it is. I'm not like, if you know me, or you've gauged anything from my persona through socials or podcast, I'm not a whinger. I like to consider myself like a strong-minded mofo. Okay, like, if in our household, mummy can do it. Like, never mind daddy, yeah, he's the strong guy and all the rest of it, but mummy can do it. And I love to have this like alpha energy. It's just me. I've always been this way. But I also think that we need to like lean into this softer side, where we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, and we talk about the things that we're struggling with, and we don't just try to battle it on our own, and we don't feel miserable in ourselves when we close our eyes of a night. Because the minute that you talk about it, the minute that you vocalize how you're feeling, or you find somebody else who you can relate to, or you're inside of a community, or whatever it might be. Don't forget, Thriving Women Community is a free community initially, and then obviously we've got group coaching and one-to-one is inside of that. But the minute that you feel heard and you can relate to someone, I feel that it instantly helps us to feel a little bit more at ease. And it's great. It's great to be able to share the things that we're doing and that we are finding that works. And it's not always going to be groundbreaking stuff, ladies. I'll give you my example. Give you a quick example on this, that it's not always groundbreaking stuff. And this is a bit of a joke, I'm going to be honest. So switching off of a night can definitely be a hard one. Well, I'm going to recommend a box set. Has anyone been watching At Home with the Furies? If you need help switching off of a night, or we need to just get a bit of humour in the situation because we've been putting far too much pressure on ourselves, oh gosh, At Home with the Furies. We've just come to the end of it. I'm definitely not intended to wrap the podcast up in this way, but you know what? This is the Nickel Grain podcast, so I'm going to wing it. And yeah, alter ego of the menstrual cycle. But anyway, we've just got to the end of the series and we were gutted that it was over. I was like, I could watch these guys every night. Absolutely hysterical, so real. Tyson Fury's wife, what a woman. Just the kids and just the carry on out of them. If you've watched it, let me know. Like, genuinely, let me know. Please do not let me feel like I'm on my own in this revelation. But so the penny drop for me was like the first night we watched it, I was like, this is genius. Like, this is a total switch off for me. Like, I'm actually belly laughing before bed watching it. Such good fun. So it's the simple things like that. It doesn't always have to be the ideal way to micromanage your calories. That's an amazing part of it. But also just helping each other find ways in which we can take better care for ourselves. So if you're in this phase, ladies, of life, the answer is not to be harder on yourself, but it's just to continue to become more informed. Make sure you've got support around you and be willing to speak up. Speak up about how you feel and what you're going through. So many women are walking around just like feeling frustrated, but it's because we're trying to use the strategy, the plan, the protocols that worked at a different stage of life. And if you feel as though you're going through perimenopause, well, you probably are. Because if you're feeling it and you're nodding along to anything I'm saying, then this is it. This is what it feels like. I know that we're waiting for this big bell to ring and be like, okay, it started, you're officially in it. That's not going to happen. We're just going to wake up one day and everything has changed and we're in a different body and we're in a different life stage and we've got a different stress tolerance capacity, stress load. And so going back to that same old plan and protocol, that is where the frustration comes from, because that ain't never going to work again. So instead, take it from me, focus on your strength training, focus on the quality of your nutrition. There is still not enough people talking about this. Focus on getting an adequate amount of good lean protein in your diet. I'm not talking about a protein bagel topped with protein chocolate spread. Like all of those gimmicky products, leave them in the supermarket. I am talking chicken, lean beef, prawns, tuna, your cottage cheese, all of your good stuff. I want you to be prioritising your sleep. Think about what time you're going up to bed. Think about leaving your mobile phone down the stairs. Think about taking your magnesium before you go to bed. Think about doing the dinner and done. Think about putting on something that's going to make your belly laugh right before bed and instantly boost this serotonin happy hormone. But give your sleep some consideration. Manage stress levels, ladies, by putting boundaries in place. And then last but not least, it is consistency over extremes. I can't say this enough. A realistic structure that gives you a way of showing up consistently without feeling like it's got to be extreme, all or nothing, like pedal to the metal. Because your health absolutely comes first. When it comes down to this, and you know what, if you've got a fat loss goal or you're trying to get to that aesthetic goal and it is feeling a little harder, try putting your health first. Just try it. Try putting that first instead of stressing about the scale weight, and watch the difference that it makes, because that is when your results will become more sustainable. It's not about lowering your standards. I'm not asking you to do that. It's just about raising the quality of the support that you're giving to yourself. And so, as I've mentioned, if you're constantly on, you're off track, Time to Thrive is my group coaching program. And this is for women who want to feel strong, supported, educated, consistent, no starting over every Monday. So you've got your training plans, nutrition that's going to work for your very real life. And we talk about the things that matter. We want to get into the nitty gritty of your habits, your energy levels, and most importantly, you will have that level of accountability. Ladies, I hope that you've enjoyed this episode and the last. Any feedback, any comments, please drop them below. Send me a message over on Instagram or reply to our podcast email. And if you do want more information on Time to Thrive, again, give me a shout. More than happy to help. And I'll hopefully see some of you inside of the group coaching program and more of you on the next episode.